Second episode of our new series. Welcome to the second episode of our new series, Diversity Matters, where I get the opportunity to discuss the power of diversity, equity, and inclusion with leaders across the country. My name is Teresa Palacio Smith, and I'm the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Home Services of America and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And this show is about amplifying the important work that many leaders are doing as it pertains to diversity matters and matters of diversity. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Johnnie Johnson, who I've known for many years and who is such a respected leader in the DE&I space. And I was actually introduced by Johnnie, and I don't know if you remember this, Johnnie, but by our own CEO, Gino Blafari, and it was, for me, an immediate connection. I was honored that when he and Dr. Michael Weber were writing their book, which we're going to talk about in a minute, they approached me to write the foreword, which was such a huge honor, but was also very scary for me. For those who may not know Johnnie, he is the CEO of the 8 Ways to Support International Sports Alliance, and his company is dedicated to breaking down barriers and bringing people together across ethnic, racial, and economic lines to use more of their full potential with an attitude that promotes harmony and prosperity for all. And I love that. Johnnie was the #1 draft pick, and he excelled for 10 years in the National Football League as an all-pro safety for the Los Angeles Rams. He was a 2-time consensus All-American at the University of Texas at Austin, where he was also named the best defensive back in the country by the committee that awards the Heisman Trophy. That is so impressive, Johnnie. He is also a member of the National Football Foundation and College Football Hall of Fame. Johnnie is the co-author of the popular book, From Athletics to Engineering, 8 Ways to Support Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for All, which is where I wrote the foreword and what we're going to talk a lot about today. So welcome, Johnnie. I'm so excited you're able to join me today.
Teresa, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I give thanks every day for you deciding to indeed write that foreword, that your contributions were extremely valuable and continue to be so today.
Well, I really, again, it was such a scary moment for me because I had never done that before. And we're going to talk more about the book because I think it's such an impressive book and it really has resonated with so many people. But I want to start off with that first meeting with you because I know you and Gino are longtime close friends. And it's really interested always me is how Gino has been able to meet all these amazing leaders like you. So how did y'all meet each other? How did you become friends?
We were actually introduced by a mutual friend, and Gino was looking for a speaker, someone from the sports world, and we got connected that way. But when we were introduced, we immediately hit it off, and we've known each other for years. In fact, we have a standard Saturday morning breakfast where for nearly 15 years, every Saturday morning that we are in town, we have breakfast together where we brainstorm, mentor each other, coach each other, and most of all, bounce things off of each other. And I have a whole slew of lessons learned from Gino Blafari that I use quite often.
Well, you know what? I have never done that. I've never consistently met anyone, but I've seen, like I walk into diners, like if I've ever gone into a diner, I always see these groups that meet consistently. That's never been me except for my family. But I'm just so impressed with that is your routine. You're dedicated, you're close friends, you connect, and you're always together, which is really cool. One of the things that really inspired me was the very first time that I heard you speak. And it was at one of our conferences. And you talked about your mother, right? You talked about that relationship. And also you shared about the adversity that you had faced growing up as a kid. Would you mind just kind of quickly talking about that? Because I thought that was so special.
Sure. Quite often, many of us can share the struggles and challenges that we experience in life. And I'm blessed because of those experiences. because much of what we encounter in life is about overcoming obstacles and dealing with challenges and things along those lines. And obviously, growing up, my parents were divorced when I was 13. There's 11 kids, and of the 11, there were 4 at home when they got the divorce. And I was raised by my mom. And so at 13 years old, we grew up on the welfare system. Without the welfare system, we would not, I don't know how we would have survived. But my mom really emphasized several things. First of all, her playbook was the Bible, but she emphasized being the very best that you can be, overcoming obstacles, dealing with setbacks, despite your circumstances, to make sure you are using more of your full potential. And so therefore, I was a 4-sport athlete in high school, played football, basketball, baseball, ran track. And when it came time for me to one day came home complaining and struggling, and I told my mom I thought life was over. She said, go get my Bible. And I brought it back, and she read 2 verses out there. And the one that stood out to me was the one where she talked about the vision and mission in life. And like most smart aleck 13-year-olds, I said, well, what's your vision and mission in life? And she said, well, my mission is to raise your kids to be the very best that you can be. And my vision is to one day own a brick home, and in the backyard of that home to have a clothesline hanging between 2 oak trees, and to have our clothes drying during all seasons of the year. And I remember saying at the time, how are we going to ever own a home? There we are with her being divorced, and me struggling, and all of us on the welfare system. So from there, obviously 10 years later, I became a #1 draft pick in the NFL, and I purchased a home. And one day I walked in the backyard, and sure enough, that clothesline hanging between those 2 oak trees, just the way she described 10 years prior to that, was present. So that will forever have a lifelong impact on me.
I mean, it just makes me tear up every time I hear that story, because what a special thing, and the gift that you were able to give her. And of course she anticipated. And I know there have been a lot of people that have been made an impact on you. And I know we all have those people, right? And then there was somebody there too that you talked about in LaGrange that really kind of, in Texas, which is where you grew up, that also was a huge inspiration to you.
Yeah, most of us, if we look back through life, there's someone beyond our parents or a family member. Usually it's a school teacher, or it's a coach. And I've had many coaches and school teachers impact me. But I had set a goal to play in the NFL when I was 13 years old. And in order to do that, you needed to go to college. And in order to go to college, you have to qualify. And so I was not very good in math. And so when I got into high school, and it was time to take algebra, everyone in high school said, don't get Mrs. Mayer. Mrs. Mayer was this really tough teacher. And I remember the first day of school, I went and looked, and I had Mrs. Mayer. And I remember saying to myself, you know what? I'm going to never, ever get out of high school. I'm just saying that. But before class started, she pulled me into her class, Mrs. Mayer did, and she said, I understand you are a very good football player. And she said, I want you to know, you're going to give me the same effort in this class that you give your coaches in football. And I went from being a D and F student to being an A student. And I didn't know this, Teresa, but I ended up in the 4 sports receiving over like 100 different scholarships. Actually, I stopped counting when I got to 100 different scholarship offers to 10 different colleges and universities. And contrary to what some people might believe, that if you don't qualify that you are still admitted. That's false. That's not true. You are only going to be accepted if you qualify. And I wouldn't have qualified had I not had Mrs. Mayer to actually teach me what it was like to actually be the best that I could be in math, in this case, algebra. And therefore, she positioned me to, as I accepted my scholarship at the University of Texas, I thanked her for putting me in that position.
I love that story. And oh, I would have not passed that. I had to. I'm the same way. I'm not good at math at all. And what a beautiful inspiration, because I think teachers really impact us so much more than we ever, realize. And I think that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing and also mentioning her as well, because I truly believe that's where it starts, right? It starts with our teachers. And I know that you are such an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And many people feel that right now is the time to act because we have such, a lot of turmoil, So what does that mean to you?
Well, it means that no matter who we are, no matter what our beliefs are, no matter where we come from, we cannot remain silent, but we must come together like we do in sports. In other words, when you look at our definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the 8 Ways to Support DEI International Sports Alliance is supporting DEI, in a way that seeks us to use more of our full potential in seeking harmony and prosperity for all. So supporting DEI from the sports world is merely you, whether you're individually, a group, team, or an organization, using more of your full potential. And that's what we are striving for. And we can't sit around, no matter what circumstances we're in, no matter what obstacles or barriers we are encountered. And particularly today, since so many people have a different opinion in terms of what diversity, equity, and inclusion of DEI means or stands for, we believe it's using more of your full potential as an individual, as a group, team, or an organization.
And that's so well said. And I know one of the things that you and I discussed when I was, doing your forward was the fact that Dr. Michael Weber, who I have yet to meet, I want to meet him so badly. He actually was somebody that came to you with the idea of this book, right? So how did you meet him? Tell me a little bit about that introduction and how you both decided this was an important piece that you needed to create at the time that you decided to write the book.
Right. Well, let me correct you in that I actually approached him with the subject of writing the book, but Dr. Weber is a fascinating individual. And I've known him for nearly 15 years and have had an opportunity to work with him as he is a mechanical engineering professor at the University of Texas. And so I've had an opportunity to work with him and his graduate students. And when I was thinking about from athletics to engineering, 8 Ways to Support Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for All, I knew that I needed another voice. Just like in sports, you need a teammate if you're going to be the very best that you're going to be. And I needed someone who came from a different world, a different background. And sure enough, athletics and engineering appear to be on 2 different ends of the spectrum, but there are more similarities than you may realize. But the backgrounds, when you look at his background and my background, that was one of the keys to, I believe, to success of the book, because Michael is not your typical engineer or engineering professor either. He's very unique in the way he thinks. One of my, I would consider to be my best friends, but one of the great leaders that I feel that we would have in any space. He just happens to be in the engineering space.
Well, and I like the link that you created, because you're so absolutely right. And the fact that, my husband was a nuclear engineer, and that of course, that's not my world. I'm in DE&I. and just that connection, because for a lot of people, they may not love sports. A lot of people don't know, but that connection, I think, was incredible, that you really were able to put together how we all can work together harmoniously. And we're going to talk about, the Sports Alliance that you have impacted, that you've created, and how did you create, that alliance, and where are you? Because you've got several initiatives that you're currently undergoing with the organization. And so let's talk about that.
Yes, I think the unique thing when you look at the mission of the 8 Ways to Support DEI International Sports Alliance, it's to support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all in education-based activities at your workplace, in your community, and in everyday living, and with the commitment of utilizing more of your full potential. And to do so despite obstacles or barriers that we encounter. And because we have so many people who today who, when they hear the words DEI, they may share different beliefs and habits and attitudes and expectations and things along those lines. So we have work to do to bring people together. And this is where we, in the book, is where we began the process of creating a multi-generational relay, very similar to what we have, you see in the Olympics, whether it's the men or the women running the 4x100 meter relay race. This is where each member of the team runs 100 meters and successively pass the baton to a teammate who runs the second, the third, and the fourth leg in order to complete the race. And they must run as fast as they can to use the full potential, but they must successfully pass that baton in order to accomplish the goal of winning the race. And so at the International Sports Alliance, we, instead of the baton, our baton is from athletics to engineering, 8 ways to support DEI, 8 ways to support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all book. That's the baton. And the multi-generational relay is for more civil society. So thanks to you all, Home Services of America, thanks to Gino, thanks to you, Teresa. Today, when some are scaling back or even reducing or eliminating their support of DEI, you all continue to not only double down, you continue to seek new ways to be able to help people use more of their full potential. And I'm thankful for that. And that's what we're looking to do through the International Sports Alliance. Teresa, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. And I think it was an issue altogether. So, so I couldn't agree with you more about, the relationship, the Olympics, especially. You've got that coming up, in the next year, right? Also, you've got World's Women's Cup. I have to talk about that because of obviously España,
right.
won. And so, but that relationship of that team and about that baton and how important it was, whether you relate, all of that is so critical. And I really appreciate you talking about the work that we're doing at the foundation, the Home Services Foundation for Housing Equity, where is actually, the dollars that are going toward, toward any of the items that we're doing there are to support housing equity. And so I really appreciate that you're able to actually download or purchase the book from the foundation directly. And I'm going to put the link on our website, on this Diversity Matters page, as well as on YouTube, so that everyone has it. Because if you buy the book, you're not only supporting the foundation, you're supporting your work in D&I. And the address is hsfoundationforhousingequity.com. It's real easy to remember. So one of the things that I do love about you, Johnnie, is that you always want to make our communities a better place. And that is how you're aligning yourself through that work that we're doing at the Home Services Foundation for Housing Equity. But also, you're also working with a lot of children and schools in the Sports Alliance. And there's a book study. I just briefly mentioned what that's about and
Sure.
how it also impacts, so that if somebody wants to be part of a book study, what can they do to do that?
Thank you, Teresa. So we had the pleasure of being strategic partners with the National Federation of State High School Associations, so the International Sports Alliance does. And through that organization, every high school student, and there are approximately 12 million high school students, both male and female, who participate in various education-based activities. Education-based could be debate, speech, leadership, the band, cheerleading, football, basketball, baseball. The band. Growing up in Texas, we played the traditional sports, but in some states they have rock climbing and bass fishing and things along those lines. So we didn't want to leave anyone out. So through this book study, we are inviting high school students who participate in education-based activities, their parents, coaches, educators, athletic directors, even community leaders like umpires and referees, to participate in this book study. And we're in the process of rolling out phase 2 of that now, which will be conducted by local facilitators in your communities. And so if you have any questions or want more information, you can go to the 8waysnationalbookstudy.com and find out more information. But through this initiative, we have an opportunity to use sports, to use activities, whether it's this debate or leadership, to work on teaming with others, diverse groups, to use more of your full potential, and to seek harmony and prosperity for all. Because when you look at an activity, no matter which activity it is all about team. It's about taking steps, no matter what color you are, no matter what background you come from, no matter the size of your bank account. None of that matters as it relates to you and I taking steps to put ourselves in the best position for success. In other words, when I got in the huddle as a Rams player and we called the play, I wasn't worried about whether my Jack Youngblood, the defensive end, or Eric Dickerson, our running back, I wasn't worried about them being black or white. I was worried about them being the very best that they can be to put us in the best position to achieve our goals of winning and utilizing our full potential. And so that's really what this initiative is about, is working with those students and parents and coaches and community leaders and being the very best that they can be.
And I love that, Johnnie. I think it's really important for all of us to know that is really true when it comes to any kind of activities, any kind of company. It's really about the team and working together. And it really doesn't matter. Everyone has a skill set that plays into that whole role. And I think that really does play into, the concept of harmony, which you talk about that, which is the one thing I really want to learn, is that you felt when writing the book, what was the one thing that you learned about even yourself?
Well, I learned that I didn't know people like Michael Weber or people that I felt like I knew as well as I thought I did. Uh, uh, and I also learned, this was probably the single greatest thing that I learned through the process, is that there are a lot of people who really would love to be able to support DEI in some way, but they're hesitant to do so um, for various fears, uh, and that when you really boil it down to it, is that we all have different beliefs, habits, attitudes, and expectations, and quite often uh, those four things get in the way of us really working to use more of our full potential and to be the very best that we can be. And we're looking through this process with the book serving as a resource to be able to not only identify those obstacles or barriers, but take steps to help remove them or eliminate them, with a goal of ultimately coming together, no matter who we are, where we're from, to be the very best that we can be as a individually, as a team, or as an organization.
Which is absolutely amazing. I think, one of the things, that concept, that recently read a study that was done by Deloitte that talked about covering, and that there are different types of covering that we all kind of participate in, covering the feelings that we have that we really want to share with others because we're scared to say, hey, we support this and we don't support this, all of those things. So I think so insightful. Johnnie, we are almost out of time, and I really want to cover two things. We both talk about our children. We have such pride. I've got my son, Jeffrey, and my daughter, Jessica. I'm so proud of what they do. And I know you have incredible kids too. So tell me a little bit more about them.
Well, I think the thing that I'm most pleased with is all three are now alums of the University of Texas. They've graduated from college.
Is that the Longhorns?
Texas Longhorns, yes.
Okay. All Longhorns, right? Which is the.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Hey, Mississippi Bulldog all the way, Georgia Bulldog. So.
Yes. And so I'm looking forward. My daughter was track and field. Both sons were football. And they both all ran, as I did, ran into injuries and things along those lines. Colin is with the New York Giants today. Kirk is working as an entrepreneur. And Camille is working, actually preparing to ultimately go to graduate school to become a civil rights attorney. So I'm proud of all three, and thankful that they followed in my footsteps at the University of Texas, but most of all, their support of DEI with the right spirit of intent.
I love that. I really, I can't believe it that we are out of time, but I really want to wrap up with one fun question. And again, a testament to your parenting and your wife's parenting in your children, right? And so congratulations to you and to them for all that they're doing. And so tell me something that people may not know about you. Maybe even Gino doesn't know about you.
Well, it's probably there are probably a number of things, but when I look back and think that if I could do some things over, what would it be? And of all the sports, I played football, basketball, baseball, and ran track. But probably the one thing, if I had to do it all over again and I had a choice, is I would have played tennis.
Oh.
And I would have strived to be like in the top 10 in the world as a tennis player. And today when people ask, well, what's your favorite sport to watch, attend, or be a part of. Many people think it may be football or basketball, which I love, but it's tennis.
That's so different. Like I would have never thought that. So you would have been our Wimbledon. You'd be
I'd have been a Wimbledon, U.S. Open, Australian Open, French
that is
Open, and I will. I rarely do I sit and watch a whole football game, but I'll sit and watch a whole tennis match
oh,
today.
that is so cool. I never knew that. I know a big sport that Liz Litton, even our PR head of PR at Home Services, is actually a huge fan of pickleball.
Oh, pickleball.
And I know that's kind of a takeoff of tennis for
Right.
those people that, have knee problems. I think it's easier on the knees because tennis is such a famous sport and is a very popular sport where I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
one of the largest Alta leagues in the country. So, all right. Well, I want to thank you, Johnnie. Because this has been such a great conversation with you and getting to know you a little better. And to all of you, this is our wrap up of another impactful episode of Diversity Matters. And so if you resonated with the insights that were shared by Johnnie in this episode, be sure to spread the knowledge among your networks. Let them know about it. Together, we're all cultivating a community that understands the significance of diversity and harmony. A heartfelt thank you to Johnnie for being a trailblazing guest on this journey, and your candid thoughts and commitment to the cause really have inspired me and the series. Johnnie, thank you for joining us and your unwavering support to everyone out there. It fuels our mission to foster a world where diversity truly thrives. If you want to stay updated on future episodes and exclusive content, be sure to follow us on and subscribe to our series. It's called Diversity Matters, youtube.com. You can download all our series there. And join me next month on September 27th, right here on Diversity Matters, as we're going to hear from Darla Zink, who is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for our parent company, Berkshire Hathaway Energy. She is passionate, and I cannot wait for you to hear about all the great work she's doing in their organization. Until then, be kind, be inclusive, and embrace the beauty of diversity. Thank you for tuning in, and see you all soon. Bye-bye, Johnnie.